Introduce yourself.
Ma'am, I my schooling from Vivekanand Public Senior Secondary School, Deher. And ma'am, after that, I have completed my PLLB honors from Himachal Pradesh University Institute of Legal Studies, Shimla. Ma'am, further, I have completed my master in laws from the Rajiv Gandhi National University of Law, Patiala. And ma'am, currently, I am pursuing my PhD in law from Himachal Pradesh National Law University, Shimla. I consider myself as a highly or goal-oriented and a very disciplined person.
What is your strength, Minakshi?
Ma'am, I am very disciplined. And secondly, I am a very fast learner. And thirdly, I consider myself a perfectionist because I strive to achieve as much accuracy as I can.
What is your weakness and how are you working on it?
Ma'am, first one would be that, ma'am, I am very straightforward. If I think that injustice is going on anywhere, or if I think somebody is doing something wrong, I call them on their face only. Ma'am, in this, I am trying to be a little sensitive towards them, not to tell them directly, but in a way they can consider this. Ma'am, secondly, I am so workaholic or I'm so busy in improving myself that sometimes I forgot to enjoy my life and I do not get any free time for myself. I mean, this I'm trying to, I can get as little time as I can. I enjoy life in that.
Okay. Why do you want to become a judge?
Ma'am, there is a story behind it. Ma'am, when I was in the my school, ma'am, there was a TV serial which was going on, Adalat. Ma'am, I got really inspired from that because they used to show like how a lawyer or a judge they could, perceive the inequalities which is going on or the injustice which is going on in society, and they can help the people to get out of it. So I get really inspired by that, and that was my motivation to become a judicial officer. Now, moreover, I consider myself as a very practical person. I love to apply what I read in the daily life. And ma'am, this judicial office is going to help me with that.
What do you understand by affidavit?
And affidavit is a sworn statement by a person. So when a person he's sworn a statement, that is affidavit.
What are its types?
Uh, Sorry, ma'am, I can't recall it at the moment.
What is many profit? Explain.
Sorry, ma'am, I can't hear you.
Explain
Could you
many profit.
please? Sorry, ma'am, I could not hear you properly.
Many profit means machine profit.
Okay, sir. Main profits. I'm very sorry. Ma'am, main profits are dealt under Section 2, Clause 12 of the Code of Civil Procedure. The main profits are basically those profits which a person who is wrongful possession of the property which is belonging to another, he achieved from, or he with reasonable diligence could have achieved therefrom. So these are the main profits, and the person who is the real owner, he is entitled to receive them to the court.
What is res judicata?
Res judicata is a legal principle that is dealt under Section 11 of the Code of Civil Procedure. So it basically says that a matter which has been directly and substantially in issue in a former suit before a competent court and has been finally decided by that court, it could not be reopened. So it is based upon the maxim that it is in the interest of the state to put an end to litigation.
What is a summon and what are the kinds of services of summon?
Ma'am, under what law? CRPC or the CPC?
CPC.
CPC. Ma'am, summon is basically a order of the court by which a person is ordered to appear before the court. Ma'am, in the CPC we can see summon may be served by the court itself, by through any officer of the court under Rule 9 of the Order 5, and ma'am, it could be given to the plaintiff itself to serve them under Rule 9A of the CPC, Order 5 CPC, and it could be substitutive performance as well, which can be by serving officer as well and by the court as well under Rule 17 and 20.
When can a client be rejected?
A complaint can be rejected, firstly, if it is not filed in duplicate. Secondly, if Order 6 and Order 7 are not followed properly.
How do you motivate people?
Ma'am, I try to talk to them to understand their weaknesses and tell them how they can be beautiful human beings with even their weaknesses. And when I try to tell them how people achieve things in life and they can also try to do that, ma'am, in these ways I try to motivate them.
What do you do when people do not listen to you?
Sometimes I get angry. Other times I uh, try to be a little patient with them, try to give them their time so that they can talk to me, listen to me, they can be comfortable with me. That is.
Who is the current Chief Justice of Himachal High Court?
Sir, it's the Honorable Mr. Justice Gurmeet Singh Sandhwalia.
Okay. And what is the present sanction strength of HP High Court? Judges of HP High Court.
Yes, sir. Sir, it is 17. There are 13 permanent judges plus 4 additional judges.
Okay. And how do you perceive the balance between development project and environment protection in HP?
Sir, I think we are progressing towards both. Sir, we are achieving the development as well as we are focused on the environment as well. So the example could be taken from the 2019 HP High Court decision, in which we became the first state to put the ban on the plastic products used in the state. So they can be see the example how we are moving toward the environment protection. At the same time, sir, we can see various hydro projects, various new institutions, various new progress in the state as well. So we are trying to balance them both by considering the needs of the society.
And what legal reform or judicial direction would you suggest to better protection of environment?
Sir, I would consider that we should take both seriously. Without environment, we would not be able to survive. And sir, progress is also important. But sir, there must be a balance between both. They must go in hand because development can only be beneficial to the mankind if they survive. And that totally depends upon the environment only. So an approach that takes both seriously and try to balance both would be very beneficial to us.
Why is Mandi known as Choti Kashi?
Sir, in Mandi, we can see various temples are there which are associated with the Lord Shiva, as in the actual Kashi. So, because of this resemblance, we often calls it as a Choti Kashi.
What is meant by the basic structure doctrine?
The basic structure doctrine, sir, it was evolved by the Supreme Court in the Keshwananda Bharti versus State of Kerala case. So, the basic structure doctrine, it basically says that the Parliament has got the power to amend any part of the Constitution, including the fundamental rights. However, there are certain basic inherent traits of the Constitution which cannot be amended by the Parliament. They cannot change that basic structure. That is the basic structure doctrine.
What is the difference between judicial review and judicial activism?
Judicial review is a process whereby the court, which after giving its final decision, it reviews its own judgment. So the same judge reviews the earlier decision which was given by it. However, judicial activism is a process whereby the justice or judges of the courts, they try to involve in the executive or the legislative affairs just because to fill in the gaps which were left behind by them. So the examples of judicial activisms could be taken where so the plastic ban case also where no policy was there, but the government put the court put the plastic ban. So that is judicial activism.
What is the view of Supreme Court on triple talaq?
The triple talaq has been declared unconstitutional by the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Shaira Banu versus Union of India, sir. And it is illegal as well as it is punishable now.
What is the procedure for amendment of Indian Constitution?
Procedure for the amendment of Indian Constitution. It is
Yes.
provided under Article 368 of the Indian Constitution. Sir, it provides that the legislature has got the power to amend the Constitution, including any parts of it, as well as fundamental rights. Sir, for this special majority is required, that is 2/3 of the majority of the member present and voting. And sir, in some cases, it may also be led to given to the legislatures of the state to ratify it, sir.
What is the difference between habeas corpus and mandamus writ?
Sir, both are the writs which can be issued by the High Court as well as the Supreme Court of India. And so these are mentioned under Article 32 of the Constitution of India. Habeas corpus, it basically literally means that to produce the body. So where a person is illegally detained or illegally arrested, then in those cases the court issues the writ of habeas corpus, order to produce the person before the court. Sir, in the case of mandamus, it is a command of the court. So it is given to the other authorities to follow the directions to do their work according to the directions of the court.
Can Parliament amend fundamental rights?
Yes, sir. Parliament has got the power to amend the fundamental rights as held in the Keshwananda Bharti versus State of Kerala. However, one important restriction that is put is that they cannot change the basic structure of the constitution by amending them.
What are the different categories of forest under the Indian Forest Act?
There are three categories of the forest. So we have reserve forest, then we have village forest and the protected forest. Then one another kind of forest which is not explicitly mentioned is the private forest, which is the private lands of the person, and the government has got the power to exercise its control in the cases of the soil erosion or to prevent all these floods, avalanches, etc.
What is cultivation land?
The cultivation land is the area which are used as the fields. People cultivate these areas. They sow crops and cut them. So
Okay. Why is the Himachal Pradesh Court Act important for judiciary aspirant?
Himachal Pradesh Court Act is very important, sir, as it lays down the peculiar jurisdiction of the courts. So it tells us about how the appeals will be followed in the civil cases and such that. So I think it is very important.
What is the pecuniary jurisdiction of civil judge senior division under HP
Sir,
Court
it
Act?
is yes, sir. Sir, it is exceeding 30 lakh and less than 60 lakh. So 30 to 60 lakh.
What is the difference between void and voidable marriage?
Now, void marriage is dealt under Section 11 of the Hindu Marriage Act, and voidable marriage is dealt under Section 12 of the Hindu Marriage Act. Void marriage is a completely void ab initio marriage. That is, it does not exist in the eyes of laws only. However, voidable marriage, it is a completely valid marriage, but it can be annulled by one party who is not a default by going to the court of law. In void marriage, we have basically three grounds on which it can be declared as void. So if a person marries in the spinda relationship, or in the prohibited degrees, or he commits bigamy, then in these cases, marriage becomes void.
What do you understand by civil death?
Civil death is a death which the court presumes that a person has died. So if a person is not heard of as alive for a period of 7 years or more by those persons who would naturally have heard of him, then in those cases, the court declares the person as dead under Section 108 of the Indian Evidence Act.
Okay. What is a voidable contract?
A voidable contract is basically an agreement which is not enforceable by the law, and it is provided under 2 Clause G of the Indian Contract Act.
Can property be transferred to an unborn child? Why?
Yes, ma'am. Property cannot be directly transferred to an unborn person. However, property can be transferred for the benefit of an unborn person under Section 13. There are 3 conditions. Firstly, there must be creation of a prior interest in some living person. It can be transferred only by the machinery of trust, and absolute interest in the property must be given to the unborn person.
What is vested interest?
Vested interest is dealt under Section 19 of the Transfer of Property Act. So, when on the transfer of a property, an interest is created in favor of a person, and it is said that it is to take effect forthwith or after certain period of time, which is mentioned in that only, or on the happening of an event which is certain to happen. In those cases, the person gets a vested interest.
What is adverse possession?
Adverse possession is a possession which is against the real owner of the property. It is dealt under Section 27 of the Limitation Act. So where a person who is the real owner of the property, and over that property, some other person, if he is possessing the property, and that property, if immovable, is possessed for 12 years in continuity, then in those cases, the transfer is bound to be in favor of the person who is in adverse possession, and he becomes the real owner, and court will favor him.
What is gender stereotyping?
So, the gender stereotyping is basically a generalization which we make as a society sometimes. We prescribe certain roles, certain characteristics to a gender based upon that he belongs to that gender only. For example, sometimes we say that women are physically weak. That is a gender stereotype. And sir, in those cases, the Supreme Court has clearly cautioned in the Aparna Bhatt versus State of Madhya Pradesh that these things, these stereotypes, they must not be used in the courts and they must not hamper the legal process.
Child in conflict with law under JJ Act can file application for anticipatory bail under Section 438 of CRPC.
That this is not entirely provided in the JJ Act. However, in the Raman versus State of Maharashtra, the Supreme Court has held that yes, the child can get the benefit of the anticipatory bail because JJ Act does not explicitly prohibit the CRPC application in those cases where it is itself silent.
Tell me guidelines of Satyendra Kumar until versus CBI.
In Satyendra Kumar until versus CBI, it is a landmark case on the bail of the accused person. Then in this case, the offences, they were divided into several categories. Like they were type A, B, C, D offences. Then where the offences, type A offences are those where offence is punishable up to 7 years of imprisonment. In those cases, the court has held that the person must be guided by the Anish Kumar versus State of Bihar. Police cannot arrest that person merely on information is received or a credible suspicion is there, but all the checklist which is to be prepared as given in the Anish Kumar has to be fulfilled. And then, sir, in non-bailable offences, which are the category of offences 7 years or above, in those cases, sir, the bail depends upon the CRPC itself. The procedure is to be followed. And sir, also it was held that anticipatory bail, it is to be within 2 weeks, it is to be completed. And the time period was also given for regular bail.
Whether the sentence imposed against the same accused by two different courts in two different trials should run concurrently or consecutively.
So section 427 of the Code of Criminal Procedure deals with such a scenario. Then in those cases, the ordinary punishment like imprisonment, it will run consecutively. However, if 2 life imprisonments are imposed on the person, or if the person was already undergoing a life imprisonment and subsequently any other imprisonment is imposed, then in those cases, that they will run concurrently.
Can Session Court grant anticipatory transit bail in case like offence committed in Delhi and arrest apprehended in Punjab?
Yes, sir. In those cases, as held by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, in the Priya Indoria versus State of Karnataka, the Session Court is completely empowered to grant the transit anticipatory bail. However, it will be for the period that the accused is able to file in the area where the FIR is filed.
What is the object of DV Act?
The Domestic Violence Act, sir, it was enacted in the year 2005. Sir, it is a women-centric law. It is not gender neutral. So the major objective was to protect the women from the domestic violence that was happening within the 4 walls of their home. So it basically gives certain rights, certain reliefs which can be asked by a woman who is subjected to domestic violence by her husband or the relatives of the husband's family.
Tell me types of offences under JJ Act.
The Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act of 2015 deals with 3 kinds of offences. So the first one is heinous offence, which is defined under Section 2, Clause 33 of the Act. Then, so there are petty offences, which is defined under Section 2, Clause 45 of the Act. And then there are serious offences, which are defined under Section 2, Clause 54 of the Act.
Is same gender harassment complaint maintainable under POSH Act?
Yes, sir. The POSH Act is a gender neutral act in the sense that the respondent can be of any gender. It was held by the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of the Malvika Bhattacharjee versus ICC Vivekanand College, Calcutta.
Okay. What is the procedure for recording of confession?
Procedure for recording confession by the magistrate, it is dealt under section 164 of the CRPC. That in those cases, the person, he will depose in the presence of a magistrate who will be a judicial magistrate or a metropolitan magistrate. His statement will be recorded as any question put to him, the answers given by him in that sequence. Sir, and in those cases, after it is all is recorded, then the magistrate will put his signature also on the that document itself in which it is recorded.
What if you are not selected this time?
Ma'am, in these circumstances, I will try to learn from my mistake which I have made. I'll try to improve myself and appear again in the next time in this examination.
Last, what is your view
Thank
on
you,
the
sir.
High Court decision striking down Section 163A of HP Land Remnant?
Sir, I think the decision of the HP High Court, it is a really good decision because of Section 163A of the HP Land Revenue Act, it was giving arbitrary powers to the state government, which is completely barred by the section Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, which says there is a right to equality and arbitrary powers cannot be given to anyone. So, sir, I think it is a really good decision and it is for improvement of the society only.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.